Oh, hello. I don't know why I'm not nervous to film this video, but I feel like getting to this video was such a journey because I have read slash listened to almost 300 books. Like at the time of filming this video, I'm at like 290. But obviously in this video, I'm going to be giving you guys my top books of 2022. I wanted to make it top 22 books of 2022, but that was very hard for me. So it is going to be more than 20, and there were just certain series that I couldn't break up. So even though I'm like counting it as like one recommendation, it is going to be multiple books because it's going to be part of a series. Also, spoiler alert, these are all romance books except for one. There's one there's one book that I'm looking at right now that is not a romance book. The rest of them are. I am just a majority romance reader, so you're gonna get a whole bunch of romance recommendations in this video. It's funny, like some of the criteria while I was like narrowing down these books, I was like, okay, Kelly, what books like live in your mind rent free? What books do you think are just beautifully written? What books do you think like everyone needs to know that like are your favorites? So obviously these are all 5-star books for me. I recommend them with my whole heart. I had such an incredible year, not just of reading, but just of content creating in general with, you know, TikTok and getting the Instagram up and running and, you know, the now YouTube, and just I'm excited for the next year. I'm really thankful for this year. Some all-time favorite books are in this list, some books that really mean so much to me I read this year, and I'm excited to share them all with you. Let's get right into my favorite books of 2022. This is one of those instances where we have a series rec that I'm just going to put in one thing, and that is I think it's called Monsters, no, Queens and Monsters series by J.T. Geisinger. This is her Mafia series. Let me tell you, okay, the first book, Carnal Urges, isn't my favorite, but books 2, 3, and 4, which are called Carnal Urges, Savage Hearts, and Brutal Vows. I listened to this whole series on audio. Number one, they're sensational audiobooks. Number two, these are just such good mafia books. I think about these books when I tell you all the time, especially for some reason, like books 3 and 4, I love. Like Brutal Vows is a marriage of convenience, Enemies to Lovers, and it is just so good. I have read an okay amount of Mafia this year. I'm excited to read more in the next year because it's definitely one of my favorite genres, but these stick out to me so much. You get a whole bunch of different tropes in here. Like book 2 is kidnapping. Book 3, I guess, also kind of has kidnapping, but he does like take care of her after like an injury. She's actually, book 3 follows the sister of the girl in book 2, and I just loved how all of the books were connected and the group of people. It definitely follows a group of people who are connected, but you can technically read them as standalones. I just had a great time binging the series, and I couldn't recommend these books enough. I'm not kidding you. I truly think about them all the time. Okay, and I have my first stack. All of the rest of these books I'm going to talk about, I own physical copies of, so I can show you, and these are going to be in no particular order. I also don't want to like go on and on about these books because I have talked about them in other YouTube videos and in other TikToks and on Instagram. And if you ever have any questions about any books that I recommend, like please feel free to ask me. I am here to answer your questions. So let's actually start with the first book that is not a romance book. That is my favorite, and that is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love Taylor Jenkins Reid. I've talked about my love of this book before on this page, so I love this. I love books about messy families, and that's exactly what this is. So if you've read Taylor Jenkins Reid's other books like Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, you see McRiva, who is one of Evelyn's ex-husbands, and he's actually a famous singer. So this book takes place in the 80s, and you see the past, like it flashes back, it's dual timeline. The timeline with the kids in the 80s takes place over the course of one day. You get all of their different perspectives all leading up to this party. And this book just had such great characters in it, and I genuinely was invested from like the beginning. I think TJR's books are just very entertaining for me. There were also some themes in this book that like I personally just connected with, and again, I loved all the characters, And I thought this book was just amazing. I really, really enjoyed it. And I would totally reread this book again, like in a heartbeat. And then we have another Mafia book, which actually may be the only other Mafia rec on this list, and that is Stolen Heir by Sophie Lark. This is book 2 in her Brutal Birthright series. I love the Brutal Birthright series as a whole. Totally recommend all 6. Binging those books on audio was one of the the most fun, some of the most fun I had reading this year. But book 2, I have such a soft spot for. This is one of my comfort books. I'm not kidding you. I reread parts from it all the time. So this book follows Miko and Nessa. Nessa, as you can see from the cover, is a beautiful ballet dancer. And this book is a kidnapping trope. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. And I just loved how Miko was so hard. Like, he's covered in tattoos. He's like a scary, you know, grumpy guy in the Russian mob. But he ends up having such a soft spot for Nessa. And I love the way she was like, she used dance to express herself. And I just, again, this book lives in my mind rent free. One of my favorite Mafia books of all time. Listen, I do love a kidnapping trope because I just like forced proximity and my characters to be with each other at all times. And this book is just, it's so good. Look at me coming in with the series rec. It was quite literally impossible for me to pick one book out of the Bellamy Creek series by Melanie Harlow. So I'm recommending all 4 because I feel like I basically gave all of them 5 stars, except for maybe Tie Me Down, the last one. I was like, okay, I'll give it 4.5 stars. But this series is just perfect. These books are not in the correct order, but let me just tell you the tropes that are in each one. So Call Me Crazy is a marriage of convenience. I love this book so much. Like, sometimes I'm like, is this my favorite from the series? But I genuinely go back and forth. But I actually feel like this is my favorite in the series. Like, if I could reread one right now, it would be this one. So this is a marriage of convenience between Bianca and Enzo, and they just had such a great relationship. It was so funny. I loved all of the moments with their family and everything, and I love this book so much. And then Make Me Yours is a single dad. So obviously I love it. This is also, it's like his best friend's sister. There's not the biggest age gap between them, but you get that element, and he is kind of hard to like open up and like falling in love and all of that. So you get those kind of tropes, like, you know, he discovers a soft spot for her and they've known each other for a while. So this book was really cute. Great spice in here as well. I mean, the phone scene, if you know, you know. Drive Me Wild is book 1 in the series. This is a grumpy sunshine between Blair and Griffin. And oh my God, I love this book also. This book also has sensational spice in it. I feel like I say this every time I talk about like the Bellamy Creek books and like this book, but they truly have such memorable spicy scenes in them. Like, every book has a memorable spicy scene, and I love this book. I love Grumpy Sunshine. There's also forced proximity in this book as well because Blair stays with Griffin after she literally crashes her car. So they have a really cute meet cute. I know I just said she crashes her car and it's like a meet cute, but I swear it's like not a dramatic crash, but it was just really sweet. I love this book so much. And then Tie Me Down is the last book. What is the guy's name in this one? Where is it? Oh, Beckett. So this is Beckett, and he's actually like a cowboy. This is a second chance romance. He's not like a full cowboy, but he does live on like a ranch or a farm. And let me just say, he ties her up with rope, and it was a fantastic scene. See, I'm like blushing thinking about these books because I love them, okay? If there is one small town recommendation that you take from me, it is these books. I love Melanie. It was very hard for me to narrow down the Melanie Harlow books and like which ones were my favorite, but Bellamy Creek just, in my opinion, shines compared to her other series that I've read from her. Obviously, I love all of her books, but just these, they're so good. And they are getting discreet covers, by the way, soon. They're getting special edition covers. Her other books, well, her other series have special edition covers. These special edition covers are coming soon. I don't know what they look like. I wish I did, but I love these books. I love this series with my whole heart. And I mean, how could I not? My baby. My baby. This is The American Roommate Experiment by Elena Armas. This was actually also, this isn't my ARC copy of it. I think my ARC copy is like hiding. over there, but this is actually the first book that I got a physical ARC for. This book means so much to me. Elena Armas as a person means so much to me, but I genuinely love this book with my whole heart. I cried. This is the follow-up to The Spanish Love Deception, which is one of my favorite books of all time, which follows Rosie and Lucas. Rosie is Lena's best friend from book one, and Lucas is her cousin. So they also have a forced proximity situation as well. Clearly, it's called the American Roommate Experiment. And listen, I knew I was going to love this book going in because I did love The Spanish Love Deception, but I did not expect this book to like make me have the breakdown that it did. I cried because there was just a scene personally that I thought was just so romantic, and I just think Elena writes for the people who love like cheesy, fluffy romances. And I just loved this book. Like I couldn't stop smiling right off the bat. It was just so fun. It's one of my favorite books of all time. Like this would definitely go in top 5 of the year because I just had the best time reading it. Obviously, I think about it all the time. Elena is one of my favorite author pals, like connecting with her. I got to meet her this year in person finally, was just so special. But this book just gives me the warm and fuzzies when I think about it. If you love just sweet romances, I think, and you know, a little bit cheesy, just a little bit fun, something to escape in, I would definitely pick up this book. All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata. I think this is the first book that I'm bringing up, which I discovered while doing one of my author marathons. I swear I'm going to bring them to YouTube one of these days when I remember to pick up the camera and start vlogging, but on my TikTok especially, I do author marathons monthly where I binge read a whole bunch of books by an author that I have high interest in. There we go. And I don't remember which month, but I did do a Mariana Zapata marathon, and I really enjoyed like a lot of the books. My 2 favorites though out of that marathon were for sure All Roads Lead Here and Luna and the Lie. I decided to include All Roads Lead Here because I guess if there's one that I think about a smidge more, it is All Roads Lead Here. This book is definitely very popular by Mariana because this is the single dad, Daddy Rhodes. This book is like definitely a very slow burn. So All Roads Lead Here is about Aurora and Rhodes, and Daddy Rhodes is a single dad, and Aurora ends up at Rhodes's place because his son puts a listing online without his dad knowing that they have an empty apartment like above their garage. So Aurora is, you know, she's going to move into the garage, and then Rhodes is like, what are you doing here? And he gets mad at the son, but then he lets her stay anyway, and she gets a job in town. She wants to be in this mountain place because her mom, who passed away, used to walk or like do these hiking trails. I don't know. This book is like very aesthetically pleasing. It's very fall. If you love the outdoors, if you love camping, hiking, all of that, this is for you. I did listen to this book on audio and had a wonderful time. I liked the beginning part of it, like for sure. Like I was definitely very interested in Aurora, like getting settled in the town and her relationship developing with Rhodes. But then at one point, the book just like really picked up for me, and like the whole like ending chunk and a whole bunch of the moments they had before, you know, they finally got together in, you know, the classic Mariana Zapata slow burn formula. I think I said this is a very slow burn, but the burn in this one was so worth it. I literally love Daddy Rhodes. That man lives in my mind rent free. Oh, I would reread this book now. I genuinely loved it. And again, for a long book, if I'm going to recommend a long book, that's how you know it's something special. So if you like small town, slow burn romances, this is for you. I adored it. Speaking of small town romances I adored, it was very hard for me to just narrow it down to one Elsie Silver book, like between Heartless and Flawless, but I decided to go with Heartless. Also, like All Roads Lead Here, this is a single dad romance. So this is an age gap. Single dad, she's the nanny, he's the grumpy cowboy. My perfect book. My actual perfect book. Like that was so nice of Elsie to write this book for me. The spice in here is phenomenal. I loved Willa and Cade's relationship. Willa was very strong and feisty, and Cade is just this grumpy, you know, this grumpy guy, and she doesn't take shit from him. But basically, Willa has nothing to do for the summer, and she is the best friend of Summer, who is in Flawless, the first book in this like connected series. So Summer, who is engaged to Cade's brother, is like, oh, just come be Cade's nanny. He needs one. I think you'd be a good fit. And she does, and we get their romance. And again, like I said, my perfect book. It's literally amazing. I want to reread it right now. Elsie Silver is a master of writing great characters and then excellent spice. Her books are well paced. Her books are just so well written, in my opinion. And I'm so happy her books are taking off because it's what she deserves. Okay? A perfect book. A perfect, perfect book. I'm back. I feel like a real YouTuber. My camera died. So my camera died, but now we're back. I don't even know. I just got done talking about Heartless by Elsie Silver, I think. So we just picked up the stack and let's keep going. So next up, let's talk about Scarred by Emily McIntyre. As an FYI, you don't need to read any of these books in her Never After series in any sort of order. They are not connected in any way. They're literally just all retellings of, you know, like fairy tales and Disney, and this one is actually inspired by The Lion King, which I feel like is so cool and fresh. I loved this one also because it is a period piece. I love that it literally is like, you know, a royal romance in a castle. Tristan is the scarred king, well, the scarred prince. And our girl, what is her name? I wanted to call her Evie, but that's the girl in the second one. Oh, Sarah. I think her name is like Sarah B or something. I think it's definitely Sarah. Yeah, so Sarah comes to this castle. She actually is like looking to get revenge for like her town, because like not her town, she's like from a different kingdom. She's coming to marry Tristan's brother, but then of course her and Tristan have a forbidden love affair, and you know Tristan is like really angry, and it's just the tension in this book, the spice in this book. I actually read this book as an arc, which is amazing, and I love this book so much. Also has some excellent spice that lives in my mind rent free. The church scene, that's all I'm gonna say. Then for a contemporary romance, we have Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. Of course, I shed tears over this book. It didn't like make me weep like some of the other books we'll talk about, but this is a beautiful romance between Archer and Bree. I guess it's also like small town vibes as well. So Bree is new in town, and then she runs into Archer, who is like the town outcast because he is actually a mute. He had a traumatic event in his childhood, so now he does not speak. She knows sign language because I believe her father is deaf, which is how she communicates with him. She befriends Archer. I don't know if they're like technically neighbors or not, but they do live in the small town. Bree has some darkness in her past as well. This is not a light, fluffy read, but it's definitely a little bit more emotional, but it is just one of the most beautiful romances that I've ever read. I think it really sticks with you. I think the writing is gorgeous. I loved the relationship. I don't think the spice is anything as to why you should read this book, but I will say there is definitely more spice in it than I expected. And again, I just think this is a book that's so memorable. It really sticks with you. I don't want to spoil too much, but I absolutely adore this book like so much. And Mia Sheridan is an author who I can't wait to read more from in the new year. I think it's one of those books that's definitely worth all the hype. I just adore it. It's such a beautiful love story. Okay, and now we have another royal romance, but this is a modern one. We have Twisted Games by Anna Huang. This is my favorite book in the Twisted series by far, like by far. I wasn't the biggest fan of Twisted Games. I mean, of Twisted Love, the book that comes before this. But this book, this is a princess bodyguard romance. Bridget is the princess of some made-up place, and Reese is her grumpy, sexy, older bodyguard. They have a forbidden romance. The spice in this book is so memorable. This book is basically spicy Princess Diaries 2, but instead of her getting with an enemy, she gets with her bodyguard, and this book is just delicious. This is one of my favorite, like, contemporary romances ever. Reese is a god tier book boyfriend. I love Bridget because she's so smart and so just regal and such an excellent main character. And again, Reese is just the sexy protective man of all of our dreams. And I really, every time I think about this book, I get happy. I just love it. And it just makes me sad that I don't love the other books in the series as much as I love this book. But this book is, in my opinion, just in such a league of its own. I adore it. The last book in this pile, we have Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. I actually binged all three of the Brown sister books on audio. Had a great time. I love and recommend all three of them, 100%. I think Talia Hibbert is one of the most talented romance authors, like rom-com authors that we have. She's incredible. But this one, I feel like not many people like Chloe Brown as their favorite. I feel like so many people are like Eve Brown favorites or Danny Brown favorites, but I love Chloe Brown. Like Red, it's the button of it all. It's the way he calls her button, and it's just so cute. Like thinking of it, thinking of the audiobook, like I could start blushing. The spice in here, Talia Hibbert's spice, is unmatched. So this follows Chloe and Red, who have like a semi-enemies to lovers situation. They're actually neighbors. I think the point is they live in like the same apartment complex. Chloe Brown is very like outgoing, carefree. She is from like a privileged family, and I guess, well, she's not as carefree as some of her other sisters, but you know, she's like very colorful, and I just loved her personality. She wears a lot of like polka dots and like cute outfits and everything, and I think she loves like the color pink and all of that. So she's my kind of gal. But she also suffers from a chronic illness, so you get that representation in it as well. And Red just like loves to take care of Chloe, and just I love this book. Like, do you not see me getting so smiley over it? I would love to annotate this book. And again, I love Chloe Brown. All the Brown sister books are wonderful. But just Chloe Brown, something about Chloe Brown. Such a sweet book. I feel like a housewife drinking it with a straw, but I don't want to like create a mess. Next stack. We have one more stack left and then we're done. First up, another great contemporary romance. We have The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. Oh, I love this book. I love this book so much. This book is about Stella and Michael is actually an escort that Stella hires to teach her about intimacy, because she is a very successful woman. She's very smart. She works with numbers, very successful, you know, rich and all of that. And she just wants to, you know, learn about intimacy and just, and, you know, find someone, you know, for her, like in her love life. I feel like she feels some pressure from her family because of her age, even though she's not even that old, but like, you know. Stella also has autism, so again, she just wants someone to help her be better in the bedroom and in her love life. And she finds Michael, who is such an amazing, underrated king. Like, this man, he knows how to sew. Him and Stella just have such a beautiful relationship. Again, just all of the cozy feels while reading this book, with again some excellent spice, because you know, like, he's literally a male escort teaching her about sex. So, you know, you do get the spice, but this book is just so underrated, and it's so beautiful, and it's so well written, and this book is so charming, and it's just so perfect. It's so cute. Michael, like I said, he knows how to sew, but like he knows how to sew. I feel like I should mention, I'm not the biggest traditionally published romance person. I've noticed I definitely do lean more towards the indie side of things, but this book is just fabulous, and you should definitely check it out if you like contemporary romances. We have again one of the first books that I read this year. We have Neon Gods by Katie Robert. I feel like so many people who you know, love the Dark Olympus series like I do, their favorites are not Neon Gods. I feel like they love like Electric Idol. I feel like Electric Idol is the most popular one, and then maybe this one, but I love this book. This is another one of my perfect romances because it just has so much in here that I love. So this is a modern Hades and Persephone retelling. Basically, our girl Persephone ends up in an arranged situation with Zeus. But Zeus has a terrible reputation of being horrible and like abusive to his wives. So she's like, I gotta get out of here. So she straight up runs across the river Styx, like on the bridge, and ends up on the side of the city that like Hades is, and like Zeus's people, they can't cross over. So she ends up literally in the arms of Hades. She's like injured. He takes care of her, and just listen, I love when the grumpy guy takes care of the girl, and she, you know, ends up in his world. It's Katie Robert, so it's very spicy. He maybe shows her, you know, the world of like spicy times, wink wink, if you know what I'm saying. And I just love this book. Ooh, lives in my mind rent free. Let me tell you, Hades is one of my favorite bookmen also, and this is definitely one of my favorite Katie Robert books. Katie's one of the top authors that I've ever read from, and I really will read anything that she writes. I love the way she writes Spice. I love her characters. I think her books are all well paced. And I have such a soft spot for this book. I love it so, so much. And like, there's no way I couldn't make it a favorite of the year because another book, I want to reread it right now. So good. So, 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 so good. And I can't wait for the next book in the series that comes out in February. And I'm so excited to talk about this next book. It's 'Tis the Season for Revenge by Morgan Elizabeth. Yay! I am so happy that this book like had a moment this holiday season, and it's definitely one of the Christmas books. Like, so many people were reading it and loving it, and I'm so happy for Morgan because she is an author pal of mine. She's one of the first authors who followed me on TikTok, and she's just so nice and supportive. She also is the first author ever in my book journey to send me book mail, which is crazy. She's the nicest person, and she deserves all the success. And when I found out she was writing a holiday romance inspired by Legally Blonde, which is one of my favorite movies, I was like, oh, I'm gonna love it. And then everyone else was reading it and loving it, and I was like, oh, I should like read the book. This is me in a book, okay? The main character, Abby, in Legally Blonde fashion, gets broken up with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend's this lawyer, and he thinks she's too much. So she's like, guess what? I'm gonna get revenge by dating your boss. And Morgan snapped. I've never seen someone snap harder writing a man than Morgan Elizabeth writing Damien, because that man is perfect. Damien is literally my dream man. So they literally start dating, they meet on a dating app, and what you get from there is just pure fun and spice. But also, the reason why this book means so much to me, and it is one of my favorite books of all time, definitely top 10 of the year for sure, maybe even top 5. Like, this book really means a lot to me because I saw so much of myself in the main character, Abby, who is a makeup artist. She's from New York. We're almost the same age. She's like, what, a year older than me. She loves the color pink and is very girly and feminine. Again, all like me. And the way that Damien just always wanted her to be herself. Like, he was literally like, why aren't you wearing pink? Like, don't think you need to hold yourself back from me because I'm this lawyer. And, you know, she's really like messed up from her ex, who was basically like, you know, he was like verbally abusive towards her. He was not fucking nice at all. And it was just so sweet. And it just gives me hope that like I can find a Davian and I can find a man who's gonna love like my girliness and like all my pink, and just like I get sappy thinking about this book. This book just means so much to me and I love it so much. And again, so happy for Morgan. She's a doll. You must read this book. It also doesn't pull very Christmassy to me. I feel like you can read this any time of year because it literally starts at Halloween and ends at Christmas, which I love. It's more of like a seasonal read, which I like in my Christmas books. It's not aggressively Christmas. I know it's called 'Tis the Season for Revenge and the holly and all of that, but it doesn't pull very Christmas, which I love. How could I not have a Tessa Bailey book in here? I mean, if you know, you know. Tessa's one of my favorite authors of all time. Obviously, I love her. And without a doubt, My Killer Vacation is my favorite book that I read from her this year. And I read a lot of Tessa books because I did do a Tessa Bailey author marathon as well. I also love Tools of Engagement by her as well. I think that book is super underrated. But let me tell you, I read this as an ARC, and I just thought this book was so fun. This is another book that I personally think is like so me and like my taste. Miles is my kind of hero. He's very, you know, grumpy, but he's very like protective over the main girl. I just thought this book was so fun. It's nice and short, to the point. I had such a great time with it. I definitely think about this book a lot. And I really love it. I feel like it's an unpopular opinion because I feel like people either really love this book or they don't like it, which I feel like is pretty common for Tessa Bailey's self-published books. This is about a school teacher named Taylor. Yes, and then Miles. So Taylor and her brother go on vacation to this beach house, and as the title says, they literally find a dead body in the beach house. And Miles comes as like a hired help from like the family or something because he's a private investigator to try to figure out what's going on. And she sees Miles and she's like, let me help you, I love like true crime. And it's just, you know, it's that kind of like dynamic. It's very silly, it's very fun, but I just had such a good time with it, and I think it's just really fun. And again, it's my kind of book, so that's why it's here, and I couldn't not put it here because I really just had the best time with it. How do I start with this book? This is another book where if you know, you know. So An Offer from a Gentleman, book 3 in the Bridgerton series. This is Benedict's book. I love Benedict Bridgerton with my entire heart and soul. Remember, Benedict Bridgerton is what? He's mine, he's not yours. I just, come on now. This is a Cinderella retelling. This is one of my favorite books of all time. Like, if I didn't put this in my top 5 of the year, like who would I be? This book just is everything to me. I can't even put my finger on why I love it so much. I reread bits from it all the time. All the time. It makes me so happy and giddy, and I love Benedict so much. When this gets turned into a season of the TV show, you will need to check on me. I may not survive because I'm so excited. I don't even care if it's not like the book. Just a whole season about my man Benedict and him finding love is all I want to see. And I just love everything about this book. I listened to it on audio, but again, I have basically reread it so many times physically. Like, again, I go back to my favorite bits all the time. I love the Cinderella story aspect of it. I love how insistent Benedict was in his pursuit of Sophie. I know some people have issues with Book Benedict, but I liked how kind of alpha he was. And I don't know, I just really have such a soft spot for this book. I have such a special place in my heart for this book. I recommend the whole Bridgerton series. I had a blast binging them all. I do love other books in this. Like, I really love all of the Bridgerton books. Like, for sure, one of my favorite series that I read this year. I adore them. I am known as a big Bridgerton person because I love them. I love them. They're comfort books for me, especially this one. And I put a historical romance on this list, so I'm proud of myself, and I cannot wait to read more historicals in 2023. And I mean, Benedict Bridgerton forever and ever. Endeavor, endeavor, endeavor. Totally switching gears from a historical romance to a very dark romance. I actually have the next recommendations are dark romances as well. We have the Mindfuck series by S.T. Abbey. I have the whole bind up. So this is actually 5 books in one, but they are very short books. So that's why you can get the big bind up of all 5. I actually own all of the books as Kindle versions, and I have this big version. This is also, again, top 5 of the year, top 10. Some of my favorite shit that I've ever read, and I always say that when I talk about this series because it's perfect. It's literally fucking perfect. So this is about Lana and Logan. So Lana is a serial killer who is taking down people who just from her past who treated her so horribly. This book is so dark. You must check trigger warnings if you have them. It's definitely not for the faint of heart. Lana definitely goes through some very dark shit to the point where, you know, you're rooting for the serial killer because the people in her past were so horrible to her. So she's taken them down one by one, and then she meets Logan, who happens to be in the FBI. And he actually ends up hunting her down. And it's just like crazy. Like, it's just crazy. Like, their forbidden romance, and like, you're just on edge the entire time. Every book ends in a little cliffhanger. The whole plot isn't him trying to find her. There's other fun, you know, things thrown in as well. I mean, fun is not the right word, but like, there's another serial killer in the beginning, and it's just like, it's so fun. Like, this played out like a mini series in my head, and I just think it's the perfect mix of great romance. Like, I genuinely loved Lana and Logan so much equally. Like, I mean, Lana is one of my favorite female characters of all time because she is a badass, but her relationship with Logan just felt so organic to me. And I, like, reading it, I felt like I was in their relationship. I know that sounds so weird to say, but just something about their romance I just connected to. I'm like, they are my babies. I have such a soft spot for them, and it's just everything. This is definitely a series that I would reread over and over, even though I know what happens. I cried. It's so well done, and it really took off for a reason because I think it's just incredible. And I haven't read anything like it, and I haven't read anything like it since. If you like dark romance, you must check this out, okay? You have to. The books are on Kindle Unlimited. There's no excuse. Please give it a try. Speaking of dark romance and my babies, we have Trails of Sin by Pam Godwin. I mean, who is surprised? If you follow me on any sort of social media, first book in the series is Knotted. Second book is Buckled. Third book is Booted. It was quite literally impossible for me to pick a favorite from the series, and honestly, I feel like my favorite from the series depends on the day. Every book is a 5-star. these books also mean so much to me because also the story behind them. I did talk about these in depth in my underrated book video. It's basically a series that follows a whole group of people. You do read every book in order. It's a friend group. They witness something, like go through something traumatic in their teen years, and it's them navigating that trauma as adults. This series is very, very dark. Please check your trigger warnings, especially Knotted and Booted have very, very dark themes. Buckled is a little bit lighter in tone. It's definitely not as dark as, you know, the other books, but they are dark, spicy cowboy romances. Pam Godwin is one of my favorite dark romance authors that I've ever read. I did an author marathon for her. That's how I discovered these books. My friend Abby told me about them and I read them, and it's a series that is now heavily associated with me, especially on like TikTok and Instagram. People are always tagging me and messaging me that they're reading it because of me. And it truly means like, I don't give a shit like in terms of like me. I mean like for Pam, because Pam messaged me and I've talked to her a few times, and you know, she was just thanking me for pushing the series as much as I do because I literally saw evidence of there being a spike in sales. Knotted is free for your Kindle. You can get the Kindle version for free. So again, if you like dark romance, there's no excuse because you can get it as a free book. You know, Pam didn't need to thank me for anything. The books, they sell themselves. And it's just, it proves that this series is something special because of all the people now who are reading it and picking it up, and they're recommending it and they're loving it. And obviously that's how things grow and they expand. And just seeing all the people like on my Goodreads who have added it to their Goodreads, and just again, my friends on TikTok again are being so nice and tagging me in videos that they're reading it per my recommendation. It just really is crazy. And reading and recommending the series has been one of the highlights of my year because like I said, Pam is such a gem of a person. Listen, I haven't had full in-depth conversations with her, but from what I've spoken to her, she is so lovely and I think she is so talented. And it really just all comes down to the fact that I think Pam is so talented, and this series deserves to be one of the most popular dark romance series that's out there because it is so well done and beautiful. I think the way it handles trauma and just what these characters have gone through and all of the relationships. I mean, of course there's spice in here. It's Pam Godwin. It's great spice, but just the actual plot, the actual plot and the story that flows into all of these books is so interesting. It's so unique. It's so special. Please read Pam Godwin if you haven't yet. It's the final stack. How exciting. Okay, so we have some more contemporary romances here. We have 7 Days in June by Tia Williams, another book that I feel like I read so long ago, but is so memorable for me, and a book that I think is so special and totally worthy of all of the awards that it's won, all of the praise that it gets. This is a beautifully written book. This is a romance between two authors who actually know each other from the past. So you get a glimpse of their past as teenagers, I believe. But basically, like, it's revealed that they've been writing kind of like not to each other in their books, but their books are inspired by each other and like their relationship, and it's just such a beautiful book. I love the concept of this book as well. Again, them both being authors. Again, they reconnect as adults and just explore their relationship again. This book definitely does have some darker themes in here as well. I've seen some people say that they don't really consider this book to be a romance. I feel like I'm one of the first people to call out a book if I think it pulls like to women's fiction, but honestly, this book read as a romance to me. I just loved Shane and Eva's relationship, and there were definitely some themes in here that like hit home for me. Eva's a mom. I loved her daughter. I just think this is a beautiful book and easily one of the best like written books that's on this list. This book is so gorgeous. Tia Williams is so, so, so talented. It's just a beautiful book, okay? It really is. So please pick it up. Speaking of beautiful books, we have Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. Oh my God, this book. I read a lot of Kennedy Ryan this year. I did do a Kennedy Ryan author marathon. I feel like my favorite books by her are definitely this and Hookshot, which is from her Hoops trilogy, which I really, everything I've read from Kennedy, I adore. She is one of the most talented romance authors that we have. This is a traditionally published book by her, so I'm very proud of her. Kennedy is also like one of the sweetest people ever. And this book I love because it's so unique, because it is a full marriage redemption. So our characters at the start of this book are fully divorced. I also wish I was being dramatic, but I am not. The introduction of this book made me cry. The prologue, which shows Yasmin and Josiah as like, I don't know, maybe they're in college or something. I literally was getting teary-eyed because maybe I was like, oh, their love just seems so pure, but then they're gonna get divorced. Like, you feel all of the emotions in this book. You really do. And that's just what you feel with a lot of Kennedy's books, but this one especially. Also, trigger warning, there is loss of a child. It is very heavily mentioned. I just ate this book up. I cried. I got angry. I was happy. I was rooting for this couple again so much. The writing was just so spectacular. Like, I feel like it was one of those books where like I'm reading it and I'm just like, holy shit, like Kennedy, like this is next level Kennedy Ryan writing in my opinion, and all of her books are next level in writing, but this one was just like fucking insane. This is one of the most beautiful books that I read all year. Again, one of the best written ones by far. Like, it's in a league of its own. Deserves all of the hype, all of the praise. Kennedy is, again, a wonderful human. She's so sweet, and I'm so happy that this book is as well received as it is, because it really doesn't deserve anything less. It's sensational. I cannot believe we're almost done. Oh my god, Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher. Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher. I love this book so much. This is a marriage of convenience between Declan and Iris. Declan is a bajillionaire and Iris is his assistant. When Iris actually tries to set Declan up for a marriage, that marriage falls through. So she's like, guess what? I'll marry you. And oh, why does Declan need to get married? Because his deceased grandfather left a list for his 3 brothers, and they basically own like the equivalent of Disney and like Disney World parks and all of that. And for them to like get the jobs that they want in the company, their deceased grandfather was like, my grandsons need to complete these tasks, and then they get, you know, their reward of like the job that they want. I don't know if Declan wants to, is Declan? Yeah, I think Declan wants to be CEO or something. I can't remember the exact details, but like, you know what I'm saying. And Declan's thing, his task was obviously to get married and like produce an heir. And when no one else does it, Iris steps up for the job. They're definitely very grumpy sunshine, but Iris, I loved. She was so smart and so confident, and their relationship was just the perfect amount of slow burn, with like the tension and the angst. This book just really like had me blushing and had me giggling, screaming, kicking my feet, and I was just so obsessed with it. Like, especially once I got through the first chunk, I felt like I flew through this book. I also flew through the fine print as well, and I'm so excited for Final Offer, which is book 3, last book in this series, which follows the other brother. But this book, again, the marriage of convenience of it all, I'm always gonna love a marriage of convenience. Declan was definitely very protective over Iris, but I just think this book is just something special. I don't know, I really just adored it. And again, I cannot wait for book 3, and I can't wait. I'm gonna read the Dirty Air series by Lauren, okay? I've said this a million times. I love Lauren. She's so sweet. Like, I've messaged with her a few times. Like, I'm gonna read the Dirty Air series. It's coming. I know I'm gonna like it. I like Lauren Asher. I like her writing. We'll get there, but I adore this book so much. I feel like these final few books are big, heavy hitters, literally in the top 10 of the year. I can't say top 5 because I feel like I've listed enough books that I've said would be my top 5, but definitely some of these would be in there. I mean, probably my favorite spicy romance book, not only of the year, one of my favorite books of all time, another book that is heavily associated with me, a book that means so much to me, my perfect book, my beyond perfect book, my favorite book man in the world. How could I not be talking about Welcome to the Dark Side by Gianna Darling? This is a special edition box. I mean, a special edition version from Hello Lovely, by the way. I didn't feel like grabbing my original cover, so sorry. This isn't the cover that you get. But this book is not going to be for everyone. But this is everything to me. We all know. We all know Daddy Zeus. After reading about Daddy Zeus, I am a changed woman. I am a changed woman. no book lives in my mind rent free like this book does. And I'm so happy that so many people, I did this on Instagram real quick where I was like, oh, what books did you read this year? Like, what books did I inspire you to read this year? And so many people said the Fallen Men series by Gianna Darling. And I love that because this is a motorcycle club romance. There's 6 books out in the series, I believe, right now. 6, I think. Yeah, it's 6. And then 7 is coming out soon. Can you technically read the books in the series as standalones? Yeah. Would I read them in order? 100%. This is book 2. This is Daddy Zeus. His name is not Daddy Zeus. His name is Zeus Garo. So this book follows Zeus and Lulu. Now, this book is very taboo. All of the Fallen Men books are like age gaps, but this is the heaviest age gap. This book also has a lot of heart in it as well. It's not just a spicy, forbidden age gap romance. Lulu has cancer, and she was just such a wonderful female main character to read about. I thought she was so feisty, so strong. I found her story to be very interesting. There is a lot of darkness, obviously, because her home life isn't the best. Zeus just comes in and is the protective man, literally, of my dreams. Like, Zeus is my #1 bookman. He is my favorite bookman that I've ever read about. If I could pick a man out of a book, make him real life, like bring him to real life and make him mine, it would be Zeus Garo. Like, Zeus Garo is everything to me. It feels weird to call him by his first name because I always call him Daddy Zeus. But I just thought this book was so beautiful, and I feel like it really shows like the theme of like soulmates. Like, Zeus and Lulu are soulmates. This book is everything to me. I feel like it would be wrong for me to say that this isn't my #1 book of the year, even though I will say the book that I'm about to talk about next is probably tied, but they're just such different kinds of books. This is the book that dead ass changed my life because, I mean, once you read about Daddy Zeus, I feel like your life is changed. And I love being the Daddy Zeus girl, okay? It really means a lot. And I just could talk about this book forever, but if you know, you know, literally my favorite romance book of all time. I'm gonna say it. It like has to be. It's literally my favorite book of all time. Okay, goodbye. Totally switching gears, we have another contemporary romance, but the book that I said is tied for like my top favorite book of the year because this book just means so much to me on a personal level, and I think everything about this book is perfect. I think the writing is perfect, the plot, the relationship, like there's not a single thing about this book that I would change, and that is Funny Feelings by Tara DeWitt. Reading this book, I don't want to say it changed my life, but like this book means so much to me, and I genuinely feel like sitting here talking about it too much could make me emotional. This book is about stand-up comedian Farley and her manager Meyer. They have to start fake dating because Farley is announced to go on this tour with very high-profile comedians, and to create buzz for the tour, they're like, "Oh, you should enter a relationship, like, you know, just to create some buzz." And she's like, who better for the job than Meyer? Her and Meyer have been very good friends before, you know, he became her manager. Like, they have like a friends to lovers situation, which I really loved. And just it's a slow burn romance as well. And Meyer also has a daughter, Hazel, who is deaf. And Farley knows ASL, so she can communicate with her, and they had such a beautiful relationship. I have never read a book that made me weep at 20%. No, not even. I think I said it was 2 chapters in. I just couldn't stop crying throughout this entire book. And I wasn't crying because this book is sad. It definitely has its emotional moments. I was just crying because the themes in this book meant so much to me personally. I think the writing is so fucking beautiful, and I will read anything that Tara writes. I just think this is one of the most beautiful books that I've ever read. Again, I've never cried so much over a book in my life, like consistently. I, again, could go on and on about how much this book means to me, but I actually have a whole Instagram post where I talk about this book a little bit more in depth and as to why it means so much to me. This is a beyond 5-star read. Again, like I said, tied with Welcome to the Dark Side as like not only favorite book of the year, favorite book of all time. I will think about this book for the rest of my life. I'm so thankful to Tara for writing this book. I have had wonderful conversations with Tara. She is such a kind soul. I adore her and her mind, and I'm so thankful that she wrote this book. I'm so thankful I decided to pick up this book. It just is one of those books that means the world to me, but I also genuinely think it is such a spectacular book. Like, you must pick this book up. And the fact that it's available on Kindle Unlimited, like, Kindle Unlimited, like, this should be a traditionally published book. That's how beautiful it is. And it's just so fucking fantastic, okay? Another book where, like, you need to read it. You see this book? Read it. Okay, we did it. It's the final 2 books. Holy shit. So, I feel like I don't even need to touch on this too long because I've brought it up multiple times. Cat and Mouse Duet by H.G. Carlton. This is my beautiful special edition bind up. First book is Haunting Adeline. Second book is Hunting Adeline. You may have heard about these books because when I tell you, these books took off. Literally, this like has to be the most popular dark romance now that I see recommended on like TikTok and Instagram. And this is the Haunting Adeline is the first book that I read this year. I think about that all the time and it just like blows my mind because I read Haunting Adeline when Hunting Adeline wasn't even out yet, and I remember people were getting the arcs for Hunting Adeline and I was jealous. So this is a very, very dark romance. Please, again, check your trigger warnings. Definitely not beginner dark romance, but this follows Addie and Zaid, and Zaid is our favorite stalker. But he's a good stalker because he takes down the bad guys. And Addie is a writer. Zaid sees Addie and he is just like, that's mine. Addie lives in this abandoned house that's like passed down to her from her dead grandma, and that house is like kind of haunted, and just so much happens in this duet. I wouldn't even know where to begin, like to describe what happens. Just know that it is definitely very, very dark, very heavy, very dramatic, but there's also some crazy spice in here as well. But I just have such a soft spot for it. It's definitely one of my favorite dark romances of all time. I mean, again, for longer books, I flew through both of them. I just think Addie and Zaid had such an iconic, memorable relationship. I mean, everyone loves Zaid. I mean, come on. He's the internet's favorite stalker. I just love H.G. Carlton's writing so much. I love her mind, so I'm excited to read more from her next year. Again, if you're a dark romance person, definitely check it out. But again, please do your research. This and the Pam Godwin books are definitely, oh, and the Mindfuck series are definitely the darkest books on this list. Again, really wouldn't recommend any of them as beginner dark romances, but you know, always do your own research and, you know, make that decision for yourself. It's the last book. It's the last book. And we're actually ending on one of my all-time favorite books now. A book that means so much to me. Another book that made me weep for like, oh my God. I listened to One Last Stop by Hayes McQuiston on audio, right? And the whole last 30% of the book, I was weeping. It's like Funny Feelings where I wasn't crying because I was sad. I was crying because I was so invested in the characters, and I've never needed 2 people more to get together in my life than August and Jane. So One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston follows August and Jane. August is new to New York City. She takes the subway one day on her way to work, sees this cool gal Jane. And the thing about Jane is she's actually from the future. She's from the past. I almost said the future. She's from the past. She's from the 70s. And for some reason, she is stuck on this train, the Q train. She cannot get off the train. And August and Jane develop this friendship, this relationship. There's also a whole cast of side characters as well, August's friends, and it's just such a beautiful relationship. And I mean, the time travel element in it was really cool. I was here for my ladies on the train, and I just, again, was so invested in this couple. Like, I don't want to spoil the ending, but like I've just never, again, I was like, I've never rooted for a couple so hard in my life. And I mean, obviously it's a happy book, you know, you can probably guess what happens. I just wish I could experience this book again for the first time. I can't even begin to explain why I had the breakdown I did over this book. Just know, one of my favorite romance books of all time, one of my favorite books ever, a book that I think just deserves so much more praise than it gets. I know Casey McQuiston is a very popular author. I just feel like everyone is like, red, white, and royal blue, red, white, and royal blue. But I'm like, what about One Last Stop? What about One Last Stop? I really just thinking about this book makes me so happy. I read it so long ago as well. Also read this at the start of the year. Hasn't left me. Even just thinking about it now, my heart is full. Again, one of those books that like I can't recommend enough. Please read it if you haven't yet. It's just divine. Mwah, perfect. Chef's kiss. Everything. I'm so happy we're ending here. That's one last stop. Oh my God, we did it. People, we did it. Those were my top books of 2022. I mean, like I said, what a fantastic year of reading. I truly discovered books that like just changed me as a person. I swear to God, I'm telling you, Daddy Zeus and Funny Feelings by Tara DeWitt. Oh, and Benedict Bridgerton. Just really changed me for the better. And I am so pleased with this year of reading. Like I said, this year has meant so much to me. If you follow me on any of my social medias, thank you. If you support me in any way with nice comments, nice messages, again, it truly just means the world. And if you're new here and you would like to subscribe, please do. And you can also follow me on my other social medias like Goodreads, TikTok, and Instagram below. It also would mean a lot. And just please let me know what your favorite books for the year were. What books do you think I need to read in 2023 that I didn't mention in this video? I truly would love to know. Planning the 2023 content right now. I'm so excited for what the next year is going to bring. I think it's going to be great. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. Like I said, truly means the world, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye!